Noreen, can you do the roll call?
Surely. Commissioner Claffey,
The hell was that?
Commissioner Claffey,
Give us a second, Noreen, please.
That's fine. I don't think that's gonna help. Yeah.
Okay, let's try again.
Chairman Payne, Commissioner Claffey, Commissioner Haggerty,
Noreen, are you hearing us?
no, I'm not.
All right, so I will try and do a roll call. Let's see if Noreen can hear us then. Chairman Payne.
Here.
Commissioner Claffey.
Here.
Commissioner Zaz. He's excused. Commissioner Gill. He's excused.
He's here.
Oh, he's here. Commissioner Haggerty.
He's excused.
Commissioner Havens.
Here.
Commissioner Lenars.
Here.
Commissioner Trister.
Here.
Commissioner Woods.
Here.
There you go. Noreen, did you hear this?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
In the town council meeting, I think there's a button.
Yeah, if you turn off your microphone.
Yeah, you turn off.
Right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, are you mute yourself on Zoom?
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody is listening or if you can hear me, but I'm gonna just let you know that the public that are watching this on Zoom, we cannot hear anything. We cannot see any of the commissioners. This is unfortunate. As you know, 80% of communication is through body language. It would be nice to see what's going on, and it would be nice to listen in on the meeting. So I just wanted to let you know.
David Horrigan, 30 Candlewick Drive. I assume you can hear me, but I cannot hear you folks. I am speaking to you tonight in regards to the proposed changes to your bylaws, with which I have some very serious concerns. My first area of concern is on page 3, under item 1.8, in the fourth paragraph, which eliminates the requirement that an application include all supportive information and required documentation before being placed on the agenda. This is in direct violation of the zoning regulation that an application be complete before being placed on the agenda. This requirement, as well as all zoning rules, are there for a reason and cannot be allowed to be simply ignored. If this change is adopted, and an applicant will likely pick and choose what documents he or she would like the commission to consider, leaving out important items that could result in an application being denied. But the application would still be considered okay to go on the agenda. My next concerns are on page 5, items 1.15, items C, F, and I. These items greatly reduce the ability for the residents of Newington to have a voice in the public hearing process. Item C eliminates the time limit for a presentation by the applicant. But item F reduces residents' time to speak in opposition by 33%. And it completely removes our rights to respond to the applicant's rebuttal. The proposed changes to section 1.15 appear to be an attempt to limit public input on proposals that may change the quality of life in our town and are simply against all democratic principles. Much has been said over the last 8 months regarding how unfair the public hearing process is, as it gives great leeway to developers and severely limits the rights of tax-paying residents. These changes tip the scales even further in favor of developers and must not be allowed. I am requesting that you strike all the items that I have mentioned here tonight from your proposed changes. With the technical issues, I don't know if you've heard me or not. I would like to get some response that you heard me. If you can text me or somehow let me know. Thank you. Jeff, so you heard me? Jeff Zellick.
Already allowed a couple people to talk about it. Is there anybody else from the public? Anybody else from the public wishing to speak?
Hold on, let me look at the list again, I'm sorry. Give me a minute. Rachel Correll, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, I just wanted to say I couldn't hear anything that you guys said, period. So I'm just going based on why I've called, and my concern. So I'm just going to start with, I'm Rachel Correll. I live at 82 Winslow Drive. I stand in opposition to the petition for the development of, what is that? The 23 homes that are built on Rock Hole Lane. I am in opposition because I don't see the why we are changing an area that is zoned at R20 to R12. And it seems like it's simply because the developer has deeded 5 acres of wetlands of which can't even be developed on, which we can't even walk on because I've been there, as a loophole in order to get special permission to change the zone from R20 to R12. That just doesn't seem acceptable to me. And on top of that, not only is that a problem, but the other part is that the entrance is only through Rock Hole Lane, which to me makes absolutely no sense. Why would you have an entrance only there as opposed to up on Church Street? Traffic on Church Street would be the same, irrelevant, but you would increase traffic according to the information that I've read. 215, and actually I believe they didn't even include the house that's already on Rock Hole, it would be 225 extra on top of Winslow, Alston, and Stonehenge people driving in and out per day, as opposed to just simply having it up on Church Street. The other part I don't really understand is why would you want police officers, ambulance drivers, and fire truck people to actually have to meander through these tight little spaces and then finally get to Rock Hole Lane to provide services for the people on Rock Hole Lane. So my concern would be also for future residents surrounding that. Also, I'm thinking if I had a friend who lived on the new Rock Hole Lane, why would I want to meander around through all these little neighborhoods as opposed to just go straight to Church Street to get where I need to get? And the only thing that I have to worry about is my own road, which is Rock Hole Lane. The only reason I'm thinking is that it probably benefits the developer completely, that he can put more houses in this tight little 10-acre space, as opposed to if it was straight from Church Street. So that's basically what my main concern is, those two things. And if you're going to put it, which it sounds like you are anyway, in there, why can't it be Church Street? Why do you have to have a astronomically high number of people driving on the road where we walk, where it would change the character of the neighborhood completely by having an extra 215 rides per day? Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else, Eric?
Okay, a couple more, yeah, hold on.
Mr.
This,
Chair,
this is,
we
go ahead.
fixed that, so now people can hear us.
Okay. This is not a public hearing on, this is just public participation, please, for items not listed on the agenda. So who do you have next there?
Chairperson Taro, you can unmute yourself.
Good evening, thank you. This is Cara Santor, 93 Francis Avenue. I just want to say I completely agree with everything that David Horrigan said. And what Rachel just said, we couldn't hear half of what was going on anyway until she started to speak, and I caught, David's part. So I'm not sure what's going on with the mics and all that, but limiting the time that people can speak and in opposition or for is really, limiting free speech. And it's not fair to the Newington residents that all these things are getting passed if we're not going to have a chance to even speak longer than 2 minutes. And I agree with Rachel, what she said about Rockwell. What question I have is, why are we all of a sudden adding all these apartments, all these houses? Are you trying to turn our town into a city? And if so, you should take a look at what happened in all the cities, Hartford, New Britain, Waterbury, Meriden, and see what happened to those when they turn them into these big cities with all these housing units. And I don't want that to happen here. And I'm sure the rest of our town does not. And I'm finished. Thank you.
Anyone else, Eric?
Mr. Zellick is on again.
He's on once already. That's enough.
Okay. Then that's it in the room right now.
Okay. Anybody else from the public? We're going to move on to the zoning enforcement officer's report. So everybody received the zoning officer's report. Does anybody have any questions for Eric?
Eric, 33 Charles Street. Yep.
That's a great thing by Eric, by Igor, no soup for you.
We did approve his crushing permit.
Oh,
Was this violation because he went over that crushing time period?
What was approved a number of years ago was screening for topsoil. And the applicant had thought about applying for a crushing permit. Attorneys got involved. They withdrew their application at that time. He finished his operation. So this was he had started.
We never officially gave him.
He never
that
came
approval.
forward with the, to do the crushing.
Yep.
And at some point in the future, he says he probably will.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
Any other commissioners have any questions for our zoning enforcement officer?
I was gonna write you tomorrow morning. I'm not crazy about the letter.
Who's that?
Somebody's on Zoom.
Somebody from the public.
And the votes have been bipartisan. And
There you go. We got it.
Okay, very good. Okay. Any remarks by commissioners? Okay, the first public hearing tonight is petition 13-22. Special permit. Could the Commissioner Havens? What's the matter?
Is he reading the days in?
Yeah. I'm going to have Commissioner Havens read the procedures for the public hearing.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Procedures for public hearings. The order of proceedings of public hearings shall be as follows. A, convening by chairman. B, reading of the notice by the commission secretary or a commissioner designated by the chairman to act in his stead. C, identification and location of the property involved by the town planner. D, a statement of the issue to be considered by the chairman or the town planner. E, presentation by applicant, limited to 20 minutes unless a specific extension is granted by the chair. F, persons wishing to speak in favor of the application, limited to 2 minutes per person. G, persons wishing to speak in opposition to the application, limited to 3 minutes per person. H, rebuttal by the applicant, limited to 5 minutes total. I, rebuttal by the opposition, limited to 5 minutes total. During a public hearing, It shall be within the discretion of the chairman whether the time limitations should be varied slightly, provided the commission consents to any such variance. In no case shall an extension be for more than 20% of the allotment indicated above, or 1 minute, whichever is greater.
Thank you. And if you could read the first petition, petition 13-22 for me, please.
So petition 13-22, special permit, section 3.4.9, to allow an interior lot at 359 Church Street and 321 Tremont Street, rear, applicant and owner, AA Denorfia Building and Development, LLC. Contact Alan Bongiovanni. Continue from 3/23/22.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, staff. Good evening. For the record, my name is Alan Bongiovanni. I'm a licensed land surveyor in the state of Connecticut. My office is at 170 Payne Road, Newington, and I'm representing AA Denorfia Building and Development, LLC, in this continued application from a couple weeks ago. I'm going to share the screen, Eric, if that's okay.
Be able to share, Alan. There you go.
Okay. So this application is for a special permit to allow a rear lot or interior lot per section 3.4.9 of our regulations. And the proposal is to construct an interior lot on the west side of the proposed Rockhole Brook subdivision. I'm going to zoom in on the area. This would be known as lot number 1. In the R12 zone or the R12 open space, the requirements of the lot are that for an interior lot that they have at least a 20-foot wide access way owned in fee by the lot, which this does, and that the lot must have a minimum of 1.5 times the minimum required area for the zone. R12 would be an 12,000 square foot lot. We're required to have a minimum of 18,000. The entire lot with the access way as proposed is almost 42,000 square feet, just under an acre. If you take off the 20-foot access way, we're still over 37,000 square feet. So we well exceed the minimum requirements. As shown on this plan before you, we've delineated all the setbacks, rear yard, front yard, and side yards to show how the lot would work. This is an aerial picture of the area. At the bottom of the screen is Winslow Drive, Rockhole Lane in the center of the sheet. And if you could follow my cursor, the proposed Rockhole Lane extension going to the north and then to the east. Our access way and frontage is on Rockhole Lane in this location on the west side of Rockhole Lane, and then going about 197 feet to the heart or the interior of the lot. At our previous hearing, we did hear from the neighbor, Mr. Melnick, about screening. He has young children and had a desire to put some fencing in there. We've shown in red here, and it starts at about Rockhole Lane and goes along the rear of lots 102, 108, and 118 Winslow Drive, a proposed fence. I have talked with Mr. Melnick a couple times since our last meeting. At the last conversation, he requested something in visual screening along the lines of the fence. So we're proposing, and we would be willing to have the commission, if they choose to make a condition, we would accept this, that the owner of lot 1, the interior lot, shall install a 4-foot high fence along the rear of the properties at 102, 108, and 118 Winslow Drive prior to receiving a certificate of occupancy. Said fence shall be of a durable nature and provide a visual barrier from the neighboring properties. As I had conversations with Mr. Melnick, we didn't really decide on what was a suitable fence or what they would like, but part of the equation is who's going to live on lot number 1 and what they would like. I think this note covers the fact that a fence is required. The lot owner will be required to install that prior to a CO. And I think the language that at least we're proposing will cover that. There's a myriad of types of fences. There's wood, there's vinyl, there's metal. It could be a combination of a decorative fence with maybe some arborvitae's. So I didn't exactly define what it has to be, but the fact that it has to be a 4-foot high visual barrier fence along that rear. And I believe that should suffice. This is only along this area because the driveway is close to the property lines. The driveway actually will be at or below the grade of the neighboring properties on Winslow Drive. And it's going to provide some protection from the young children if they were to chase a ball out of their rear yard towards this driveway, so they wouldn't have a conflict with the motor vehicle. And as Mr. Melnick had requested, some visual screening might be a nice feature. So that's what we have proposed. The lot is significant in size. It's much bigger, as I said, than the zoning requires. It's a nice wooded area. That, you know, the entire lot doesn't need to be cleared, but there's enough area to create a nice home site with usable yards and still leave some of the existing trees and buffer area that is on the property. One of the neighbors had submitted a email to the planner, which was forwarded to me, and that was Mrs. Neiman in this location here to the west of the subdivision. Her house fronts on Tremont Street, and you can see the distance between her house and where a proposed house would go. It's several hundred feet. It's probably closer to 300 feet. And between this lot and her property, the Rockhole Brook traverses through the property, and a good portion of her land is actually on the other side of the brook, on our side of the brook, which is in a natural state. And I believe without permission from the Conservation Commission, will stay that way in perpetuity. This lot will be served by MDC Sewer and Water. All the utility services will be available for the lot. Some of the items to be concerned or considered by the commission are that it has a minimum of 20-foot access way, which this does. That portion of the lot between the street and the heart of the lot is not counted towards area. I've already gone over that. It has to be a minimum of 1.5 times. We're more than probably 3 times the minimum requirement for area. Driveway has to be a minimum of 10 feet. The plans show that. There are several items here pertaining to driveways that are in excess of 500 feet. This is going to be a 200-foot driveway if approved. So those would not be applicable to this request. Under section 5.2.6, in reviewing the proposed special permit, the commission shall consider the following criteria, as well as any specific standards pertaining to the requested special permit and record its findings in the records of the meeting. The need for the proposed location. As I've said in their previous meeting, housing is nationwide is a deficit. In the U.S., we are currently about 4 million housing units short, and this is not going to solve that problem, but this does help. We do need housing. I know I get requests from clients all the time. When are lots going to be available? And I know there's going to be a need, and there is a need for this. Item B, existing and future probable character of the neighborhood. That was not allowed by our state statutes. That cannot be considered in a special permit anymore. The size, location, and main and accessory buildings in relation to another, in relation to other structures in the vicinity. This is a single-family lot in a single-family neighborhood that will comply with all of the setback and bulk requirements of our zoning regulations, so that would cover that issue. Traffic circulation, this is a single-family lot. This will generate somewhere 8 to 10 trips a day on a proposed street. As part of our other presentation at the last meeting, we submitted a traffic report, which clearly shows that the existing streets have the capacity to handle the additional cars that this would generate in a safe and effective manner. And that is part of the record for the subdivision that has been closed. Public sewer and water is available. I did submit to the town a copy of the letter from the MDC. Item F, location and type of display signs. This is a single-family residential zone. There are no signs proposed here. They would not be permitted. And then safeguards to protect the neighborhood from general detriment. This is a single-family house proposed on a single-family lot in a single-family neighborhood. It has to comply with all the building requirements and zoning requirements, and will comply with all the setback requirements. So it's kind of a moot point that we need to provide something additional than we're already showing here. It is consistent with the neighborhood, consistent with the zoning, and we feel it would benefit the neighborhood as well as this development. I think that's my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. This is not a very detailed application, but again, if you have any questions, please, I would be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. We'll go to the town staff and ask them if they want to give a report on this. And then Eric.
As stated, I mean, this application meets all the zoning requirements for an interior lot.
Okay,
So.
very good. Is there any questions from any of the commissioners for either the staff or the applicant?
I have two questions, both for the applicant, or excuse me, one for the applicant and one for the staff. Mr. Bongiovanni, my question is in regards to the fence that is proposed. Why would we put that requirement on the homeowner buying lot one and not on the developer developing the lot? So it's there at the time of the house is CO'd. It could, I mean, you could CO the house without an owner in it, and then it could take 5 years for the house to sell, and the residents who butt up to that have nothing that you agreed to.
So that was language that I chose. The developer is going to be the builder of lot number one. If the commission has a different language that you're more comfortable with, we'd be happy to change that note or be subject to whatever condition you put on regarding that fence. I just felt it appropriate to put it in at the time or when the house is built. You don't want to put it in before, because you need to be able to construct the driveway and put the utilities in, and a fence being built prior to the development of the lot would be subject to damage.
No, I guess what I'm saying, Mr. Bongiovanni, is why would we put the onus on the potential buyer to put the buffer / fence up and not on the developer?
Well, in essence, it actually is on the developer of the lot, because he can't transfer it until he gets a CO.
Okay.
So he's the owner, the developer is the owner of that lot until he gets a CO and closes on it with a prospective buyer.
Gotcha. Okay. And my second question is for staff. Any other proper buffering requirements than just a fence or nothing? I guess is another question. Do we have any buffering or requirements in?
Not for an interior lot or residential to residential. If it was, a commercial zone butting up to residential.
I just wanted that on the record that we don't have any requirement.
Correct.
Anything else?
That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners? Are we good?
I have a quick question. I am just curious, why was the decision made to make that a cul-de-sac and not connect to Church Street?
Oh, that's on another application. That doesn't have anything to do with the rear lot here. And when we go under site plan, we may have a discussion under a site plan issue.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can see why.
Any other?
I got a question. I'm sorry.
You have to wait in a minute, okay? We're going to the public right now, so if you'd like, you can come up here, Ray. And
In regards to this.
in regards to this, we're talking about the rear lot for this development. That's what we're talking about.
It's gonna be temporary easement like my house did. For years, to 1988.
No, there's no temporary easement. Any other buddy from the public?
Or against, doesn't matter.
For, I'm sorry, anybody for? Anybody against? Come right up.
Evening, gentlemen, ladies. Bill Prentice, 61 Maple Hill Avenue. The right of way, I built a rear lot, and back in the day, I had to have 20 feet, and they changed it to 25 feet. When did it get changed back to 20? Is that something that's fairly recent? I never heard of that going back to 20. I know in 1977, I subdivided my property so I could have a rear lot. I was grandfathered in because they said it went to 25. And I talked to the town, they said, yeah, it's 25 feet now. So I don't know when it got changed back to 20.
25 feet for what?
For
For,
right away to the rear lot. Like he says, he's got 20 feet, and that's town regulations. No, I just.
I think the pavement has to be 25, isn't it correct?
No, it's.
The right of way is 20 feet?
Yep, it's 20 feet, and I believe it changed about 15 years ago. I don't have my regulations with me. I can't look in there and see, but.
And another thing, it looks like that, I don't know what it's got to do with lot one, but it looks like the road going into the development looks like it necks down.
It narrows down?
Yes. What is the size? He said it's 26 feet or 24 feet. But
Yeah, with the way it's being proposed by the applicant, it's a little narrower than Rockhole Lane. And that's gonna come up for discussion under old business. That'll come up. Come right up, please state your name and address for the record.
Andrew Mullen, 118 Windmill Drive. I do want to thank Mr. Bongiovanni for reaching out after the previous public hearing. We did have a couple discussions about the fence. I'm just concerned about a couple things. I just want to get clarification if I can. When Mr. Bongiovanni and I spoke on the phone, we talked about grading. There's a significant grade change between my property and the property behind where they're going to be constructing the driveway. I had asked them if they were planning on doing any filling. I'm just concerned about, washout or, he told me that they were going to be filling to bring the grade level up, put the driveway in. The other question I have is
We hear you.
No, it's on. There you go.
do you want me to start over?
No, go right, just
Okay. So the other question I have is in regards to something else we spoke about. I just want to be on the record again and for a little bit of clarification. The easement that exists currently at our rear lots to SNET or Frontier or whomever has taken over the easement. Is there anything that's going to go onto the plan to reflect that easement, to show that easement, to show that that easement is going to be nullified? And then I just want to also be on record with, I know it's not germane to this particular application tonight, but in regards to the wetlands, the future homeowner of lot 1, they're very close to the 100-foot buffer upland review zone. Just wondering about potentially in the future, if that homeowner chooses to place a shed, place a pool, how does that affect the wetlands? Will they be able to do that? Will they not be able to do that? And then the final thing that I have tonight is with the length of the driveway. I know that the applicant has stated multiple times that the lot meets all requirements. However, being that that driveway has a decent distance to it, in the event that there's an emergency back there, will emergency services be able to get to that lot in a timely fashion? We do live in New England. It snows. Is that homeowner gonna be able to clear the driveway of the snow and the ice by themselves? So they have to hire a contractor? So my issue is just the access. God forbid, hopefully it would never need to be, but if there is an issue back there, I know, it said that, it meets all the regulations, but has anybody actually thought about the practicalities of having residents back there. Thank you very much.
We have phone number ending in 215. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yep. Yes, hi, Ron Adorno, 54 Alston Road, speaking in opposition to the rear lot. We have a developer's plan with the driveway going through several people's backyards. They'll have traffic not only behind them in the backyard, but even more on Winslow with the entrance on Rockhole. Even with a 4-foot fence behind there, how is it safe with the driveway going through the edge of existing backyards? It isn't. You need to have the developer change the entrance and exit to development from Rockhole to Church Street. Then maybe the cul-de-sac will be put behind these houses on Winslow and there won't be any driveway issues going along the backyards. A quote from the staff report dated 3/16/22, section 5.2.6b says the existing and probably future characteristic of neighborhood in which it is located, in section 5.2.6d says traffic circulation within the size, amounts, location, and access to parking and traffic load or possible circulation problems on existing streets or proposed streets and driveways, considering the impact on existing streets are affected. I don't think that impact has been looked at all. These sections indicate that you need to be sure of the safety of development will have on the development itself and the surrounding streets. You need to have the developer, again, submit plans for the entrance and exit from Church Street. It also solves the safety issue of all the extra traffic on Stonehenge, Alston, Winslow, and Rock Hole, and solves the safety issue of the driveways right next to the residents' backyards. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
There's someone on the line. I don't know if you want to talk to anybody in the room first. Either way.
Anybody else in the room?
Mr. Zellick, you can speak.
If I was to buy lot number 1, if I was to buy that home once it was constructed, do I have the right as the property owner to remove that fence, or is it in my deed that I have to maintain that fence in perpetuity? Thank you.
Good question. Anybody else?
Hi, Eric Silver, 108 Winslow Drive. I just like to reiterate what's been said many times and the consideration of the entrance to the development being on Church Street. I've been living in my home on Winslow for about 14 years, and I drive, through the neighborhood several times a day, and there's not one time where I drive through there and I'm not, having to go at a very reduced speed to avoid people with babies, dogs, elderly people walking. There's always congestion on those streets, which is great. So I think maybe we might be even doing a disservice to the new homeowners of that development to have to navigate that on a daily basis. I know there's safety issues, which have been mentioned before, but if they buy a new house and they realize it's going to take them an extra, few minutes and have to be extremely cautious when trying to get to and from their new home, that might not be that desirable. And also just to, one more thing to the applicant, just to consider again, is the feasibility of having that driveway for lot 1 go on the other side of lot 2 instead of in the backyard of our properties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Carell, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name is Scott Carell. I live at 82 Winslow Drive. Bunch of questions. The process. There's applications at the Conservation Commission that would make this okay. I'm assuming right now, because one of them that Mr. Bongiovanni is submitting is changing the wetlands. Right now, lot 1 is on upland review area. And I don't believe you would be allowed to build on it. I'm not sure. I'm not an engineer. I don't know all the regulations. I am a little disappointed with our current plan of conservation and development. That seems to be 99% pro-development and 1% conservation. But the process, seems like we're a little out of whack. I realize there's these applications next week at the Conservation Commission meeting that relate to this, and they have to pass. I almost feel like we already know they're going to pass, which brings me a question, or actually a statement about the process. I spent a lot of time talking to a few people at town hall, some people on the phone, and some internet research. I wish the process was different. It seems like when we get to this state in front of you guys, and there's a public hearing, it feels like it's a done deal. The town has done a lot of work with the developer's done a lot of work with the town. I hear the presenters say that. And there's some concern. I wish the public hearing was earlier in the process, like when this site plan review hit the town manager's agenda in March of 2021, a year ago. I think this lot, so I could slip it in like other people have, I think this lot would be much better off a cul-de-sac that started with an exit and entrance on Church Street. Maybe you could have the driveway not along the property lines. Maybe lot 1 and 2 could be adjusted so there wouldn't even be a driveway along those first 3 homes west of Rock Hole Lane. And in the end, I'm thankful that it seems like Mr. Melnick might get his fence, although I'll be convinced when I see it. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Anybody else, Eric, online?
No one online.
Anybody else from the public? Okay, it's now an opportunity for the applicant.
Mr. Chair, before you move, I received some correspondence.
Okay.
So I will read this, and then it's the same letter that was signed by a couple of people. So let me just go through this. To Ms. Bertati, town planner, this letter explains our opposition to the above noted petition due to safety concerns. The plans currently have 23 houses being built. According to the developer's study, there will be 217 more cars on the streets of Stonehenge, Alliston, Winslow, and Rockwell. This will affect traffic on all these streets and will impact those on Pickens too. Given the number of houses being built, the number of cars will likely surpass 217 cars, if not fully done eventually. By the way, this was submitted on petition 1222, but then it was also submitted for petition 1322, so I have to read it. In order to reach Stonehenge Drive, the cars will already be on Church Street. There is no reason to have the cars leave Church Street and drive down several other roads to reach the new development. Church Street can easily handle 217 more cars than our roads. Additionally, the plans show that the entrance and exit for the construction vehicles is on Church Street. Let's keep the residential vehicles on Church Street too. This is a safety issue for all those living on Stonehenge, Allison, Pickens, Winslow, and those currently on Rockwell. There are many people walking the neighborhood at all times of the day and night. As the neighborhood turns over to younger families moving in, there will be more children at risk too. Our small roads can't safely accommodate 217 or more cars. Additionally, it is safer for the residents of the new development for the entrance to be on the Church Street. Emergency vehicles, police, fire, and EMS will be able to get to those residents much quicker than having to travel down Church Street and then Stonehenge, Alston, Winslow, having to transverse several corners and wasting valuable time. Seconds count in emergencies, and quicker response can and will save lives and property. The current residents and voters on Stonehenge, Alston, Pickens, Winslow, and Rock Hole vastly outnumber the potential residents of new development. For safety reasons of the residents of Stonehenge, Alston, Pickens, and Winslow, and also for the future residents of new development, the entrance and exit to new development needs to be moved from Rock Hole to Church Street. Please share this letter with the town planning and zoning commissioners who will be voting on this petition. And this is signed by Rachel Corral of 82 Winslow Drive, by Scott Corral of 82 Winslow Drive for petition 1322. And then I received another email from Ina Neiman of 289 Tremont Street. This is to all board members. After the public hearing on March 23rd, I had closer look at the diagram of the proposed development and realized that the division directly abuts the portion of my lot which is on the hill and across the brook. My son pointed out to me the rebars marking the property boundary which were not visible on the image shown during the hearing. My plot extends further up the hill and abuts the existing houses there. I have lived at 289 Tremont Street since August 1966. When my husband and I contracted for this house, we were offered an extra parcel of land across the brook. We bought that extra land to maintain a buffer between our land and existing and future developments. We left it in its natural state. For almost 56 years, my family and I have enjoyed watching wildlife and enjoying the screening provided by the extra land. I realize that public participation has been cut off, but during the first hearing, mention was made of some form of screen, trees perhaps, but having seen a better image showing the impact on my property, I'm asking that the boulders provide a true privacy screening for all seasons. This will benefit not only me and my Tremont Street neighbors, but also my new neighbors to be in the planned subdivision, should the proposals be approved. It would have been added advantage of preventing unintentional trespassing on private property. The question of further erosion along the banks of the brook did come up at the first meeting. What was not addressed was whether there would be any changes to the path of the brook. My property has already been seriously impacted by previous changes to the brook flow when changes were made along Church Street some years ago. Also, having seen how closely these proposals affect my property, I must now consider the impact it would have on resale value when the time comes to sell my beloved home. The further request for an interior lot at the rear of 321 Tremont Street will have definite financial effects. During the scheduled second hearing on this proposal, I hope that the consideration will be given to my concerns. Sincerely, Ina L. Neiman, 289 Tremont Street. And those are the three regarding the interior lots. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The applicant has a time to try to answer some of these questions, and if you're there, Alan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Prentice spoke first. I don't think there's anything really that I could address in his comments there. As was stated for the record, there's two applications here. One of them was for the subdivision, for the open space subdivision. That was open and closed at the last meeting. So several of the comments that address or question or are looking for information regarding that application, that is at the commission's hands now that hearing is closed. Mr. Melnick asked about filling. I explained to him our property, this property, lot number 1, lot number 2, are lower in elevation than his lot. Our plans detail that there will be some grading to accommodate this driveway. At the rear of his lot, our driveway, the final grade will probably be about a foot lower than his rear property line. It'll be a gentle grade between them. It doesn't require, if you look at the grading plans, any significant grading to make this happen. So yes, there is a drop in grade to the north of his property to, on our property, but it's not anything that is so drastic that we can't do with normal construction practices. And we've detailed that on the plans set, and the town staff has reviewed that. Question about the Snet easement. So this is owned by a large corporation. This is I explained at the previous hearing. It starts and ends on our property. There is no place for a a power line or a communications line to go in the future. This was part of a larger easement that, as those properties were developed, it was at the time Southern New England Telephone Company. They extinguished it because this property was vacant and there was no immediate plans at that time. There was never a request made of the owner of that easement. We don't have any notes on the plans because, one, it doesn't affect the development potential for this property. And two, it could be a long time in trying to track down who the current owner of that is because of corporate sales and transactions. It could be Frontier, it could be another entity for all we know at this point. So it's something that we're looking to extinguish, but we don't know when and how long that would take, but it does not affect the developability of lot number 1 or 2 or any of the other lots in the subdivision. Questions were raised about the wetlands. Again, that is beyond the purview of this commission. Those are items that are being taken up on different applications for a different commission. Comments or questions from Mr. Melnick about, did anybody look at the length of the driveway and evaluate this? When these regulations were crafted by this commission, public safety, fire, emergency access was all looked into. That's why you have items. Bear with me one second. You have those items under the interior lot that talk about driveways in excess of 500 feet and certain widths and things like that for fire department and apparatus. These regulations were reviewed. These standards were put in place so that you have adequate safety measures in place with interior lots. And we meet those regulations, but they have been addressed by public safety and the fire marshal's office. And where appropriate, there are provisions in the regulations to put other requirements on a driveway. Because this is only 200 feet, it's relatively short. This doesn't require any of those special measures. Mr. Adorno asked questions really relative to the subdivision application. I won't rehash that. Mr. Zelik asked a question about the perpetuity of the fence. I would imagine that would be a condition put on the commission that we'd note on the subdivision map that this fence must be maintained in perpetuity or at such time as maybe both neighbors don't want it anymore. So, we're willing and to accept something that provides some assurance to the neighbors that this will be there for appropriate time. Mr. Silver talks about moving the location of the driveway to the other side of maybe lot 2. Given the proximity to the wetlands, given the actual existing contour and grade of the land, it really doesn't work well there. It would be a significant impact to the upland review area and potentially some of the wetland areas. If we were to relocate that driveway to the north side of lot number 2, where we've shown it is the most appropriate location. It works well with grading, and there's the least amount of impact to any of the land in that location. Mr. Carell voiced a couple concerns, and I've heard this in a lot of applications, that the public feels that when applications like this come before this commission, that the town's worked with the applicant and they're done deals. I think what the public is missing in a lot of applications is the property owners have rights. They have right to develop their property for what it is zoned. This is residential property. The landowner has the right to develop this property. So they have regulations that we have to comply with. When they do that, they have to work with the town staff because they're the body that reviews these for the commission. They're not done deals, but there are rights that the owners have to develop the property. Just like everyone that's a neighbor here, someone before you came before these commissions to create a development within the regulations. And as a subdivision, it is an as of right type of application where the developer is entitled to do that. The little difference here is we're asking for a special permit for an interior lot. Special permits are not a vehicle designed to create ways for a commission to deny an application. They are ways for the commission to ensure that because of the character or the uniqueness of the application, that there's special provisions they want to make sure that they are addressed. And that's why we're here. We're demonstrating that we've addressed what's required for an interior lot and that we protect the public health and safety and work within the regulations so that a special permit should be granted. Number of questions about traffic. Again, that has gone before this commission in the previous application or the companion application. Our traffic engineer spoke to that, and I will leave the record as it was submitted. And lastly, Ms. Neiman's letter talks about buffering and screening. I still have, I believe, control of the screen. You see the aerial photograph. The lines in yellow are the property lines. To the left of the screen, the most far left is Miss Neiman's house. From the back of her house to her rear property line is probably in excess of 150 feet. The brook bisects her property. She and her husband acquired additional land so they would have additional buffering in that area. And that was per her statement in the letter. This is all wooded. It is all wetland or regulated area that if anybody was to do anything would require permission. We have, and we are proposing to leave some of the trees on our property. There is no requirement for buffering between residential use and residential use. So between any neighbor on Rockhole Lane or Winslow Drive or Tremont Street, there's no requirement that one neighbor has to provide screening from another neighbor with the same use. I just submit to the commission that there's adequate screening that exists today and will exist in the future. And any additional screening or buffering is not required and is not part of our regulations. With that, if you have any more questions, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Staff, I mean, the public has a position to rebut. Ray, come up here and state your name for the record. And right ahead. This is concerning the rear lot.
All right, there's two questions. Why aren't we getting a road to Church Street? Why do we have to do this way? And the second one is, where are the people's rights that aren't been here? There are been disconnected. We don't have to say anything. We have you people that we elected. God bless us. We're in trouble, just like America.
Anybody else wishing to speak?
We have some people online, Mr. Chairman.
One second.
Rachel Carell, go ahead.
Okay, so the question I have is that you insinuated that you did some kind of research or something on the additional 215 rides, but what does that actually mean for Alston, Stonehenge, and Winslow? How many times per day will there be vehicles on those roads? There was no number with that, and I'd like to know that number.
Well, that has to do with the previous plan, and that's already been closed. So, next person. Yeah.
Andrew Melnick, 118 Winslow Drive. Just asking the commission if, the proposed language that goes into the site plan could be amenable between the future resident of Lot 1 and the neighbors presently on the street. So I just asked that if we could all work together to get this put into writing, I would appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Anybody else wishing to speak online?
Mr. Zellick, you can unmute yourself. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hi, Mr. Bongiovanni stated that by right, the developers and property owners can develop this property. I'm just curious as to maybe the zoning commission, one of the commissioners, or maybe the staff can answer the question. If they have the right to develop, what would be a legitimate reason for denial? Thank you.
Anybody else wants to speak?
I have one more online. Go right ahead. Scott Correll, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Scott Carell, 82 Winslow Drive. Being a little honorable, defending my wife Rachel, who spoke earlier. Mr. Bongiovanni, who I have a lot of respect for, he certainly knows his stuff. He did bring in the traffic report when he was talking about the lot number 1. What I would like to say is you guys have more patience with us, because what I learned talking with Newington town employees, officials, is that I pretty much only have a right to just complain. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a lawyer, but I know development is inevitable, but is this development too much for the space it's going into? That's why people are upset. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No one else online.
Anybody else from the room? Any commissioners have any questions before we entertain to close the public hearing for petition 15-22?
I just have one other person just raise their hand. Phone number ending in 215. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, Ron Adorno, 54 Austin Road. I had hit the number to get there, raise my hand, but I guess it didn't go through right. Mr. Bongiovanni said that the issues I raised before were really applied to the prior petition, but it's really related. These two are really related, traffic in the driveway. Both issues could be resolved if the entrance and exit is moved to Church Street. And as far as public safety and fire saying that this is okay, myself and several other neighbors have talked with them and met with them, and their preference by far is to have the entrance from and exit from Church Street. So I'd invite the commission to go and talk with them and ask them what the preferred method is for accessing the development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive, and this is just for clarification for myself. It was late when you had these two hearings 2 weeks ago, and maybe I misunderstood, but I think at the end someone questioned whether both applications had been closed, and you said they had, just one was and not the other. Is that correct?
The other application was closed.
Okay.
And this one here, we forgot to include the two of them together. So we wanted to have this open again because it was late and I made a mistake. And so that's
Okay,
why
so
we have this public
we
hearing.
thought it was, but it wasn't. And so the discussion at the end was incorrect, that both of them were not closed at the same time because this one wasn't included with the other.
Correct.
Okay, it'll save Renata some time tomorrow. Thank you for clarification.
Thank you. Anybody else online?
No.
Okay, anybody else from the public? I'll entertain a motion from the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we close the public hearing for petition 13-22 and move it to old business for possible action this evening.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Woods to close petition 13-22 and move to old business. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chairman Claffey. Any discussion?
Just one thing, Mr. Chair.
Certainly.
Just some of the correspondence that Mr. Melnick talked about going back and forth in terms of what was actually stated in the petition for protection, fencing, grading, whatnot. Is that gonna be something that they're gonna have a chance to see before it's voted on? Would we like that to happen as a courtesy to the neighborhood type of thing?
That's something that we will discuss under a site plan.
Gotcha.
And we'll come up with language to protect everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion on the table. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries to close petition 13-22. The next petition is.
Thank
Petition 15-22. If Vice Chairman Claffey could read that, please.
Petition 15-22, special permit section 3.19.1 and 3.15.6, and associated site plan to allow a place of physical activity, swim school in parentheses, in the PD zone at 77 and 93 Payne Road. Applicant SBS Realty LLC, owner McBride Properties Inc. Contact Merton J. B. Sabenrad.
I'm going to turn the meeting over to the Vice Chairman. I'm in a butter, and so I'm going to recuse myself from this petition. Thank you.
Thank you. If the applicant is present, like them to come forward and present their petition here before us. Oop, 1, 2, 3. No, he's already in.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
We need to note if we have an auditor.
Well, that's what's going on.
We don't have
Seven. You don't have anybody to see.
Yeah, don't have anybody to see.
Still enough for a vote, though.
Yeah, we have a quorum. Just takes a civil majority.
Yeah, no one's seat though. Sorry. Little clarification up here.
You have to bear with me. This is a first presenting on Zoom in a public space, so I'm gonna do my best here. I think.
Little technical difficulties.
Yeah,
so-
I'm live on Zoom on my computer and. and
Screen
live.
share is all good, so you should just be able
Yeah,
to.
I think it's gonna work. So for the record, Brandon Hanfield, professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut with Yantic River Consultants LLC, representing the applicant SBS Realty LLC. On the meeting tonight with us virtually on Zoom are two members of the applicant, Rutan Ajay Sabarad and Salesh Saxena. John Wickel, our project architect, is also on. He might be on under my name as well. I hope that doesn't cause confusion, but he didn't get a link. And Joe Balskis, our traffic engineer, is on, or Molly, his coworker. So we have a full team here to give you a presentation. Before I share my screen, we do have two applications in front of you. One is this special permit, the other is a site plan. If it pleases the commission, I'll give the same presentation for both since they're together, and ask that the testimony be entered into both records. So keep things short. All right, with that, I will try to share my screen and hopefully this works. Staff others, yes. All right, so it worked. All right, so the first sheet you have here, it's your title sheet or sheet 1 in the site plan set. Just real quick to orient everybody on where we are. We're at 77 and 93 Payne Road, which is at the south end of town, at the bottom of the Berlin Turnpike. On this screen here, title sheet, the Payne Road is up, which would be north. To your right would be S.A. Frink Garden Center. To your left would be Connecticut Auto Repair, or to the west. The Stu Leonard's property would be just below off the screen here, to our south. And if you went eastbound on Payne Road, you'd come to the intersection with Berlin Turnpike about 900 to 1,000 feet down the road. What I'm going to do is just jump to the survey that was submitted as part of our site plan application. What I did is I overlaid the survey on top of the 2019 aerial just to give a quick snapshot of what we're dealing with back in 2019. So outlined in orange are our subject properties. That includes both properties. So 77 is to the east, that's approximately 1 acre. 93 is to the west, that's about 1.5 acres, totaling 2.7 acre or 2.55 acres total. It is zoned PD or Planned Development District. And the current use is vacant. So there's nothing on it now except for an extensive regrowth of invasive species, mainly due to a historical land use back from the earlier mid 1990s when this area was improved. So the S.A. Frank property here was a warehouse, I believe, by itself. Their property, these two properties, as well as the property to the east, which is storage, and then further to the east, which is the car wash. They were all part of a development that improved this area. Speaking directly to our property, the entire area from about the midpoint south was filled to level it off for future development. Nothing's happened since then, obviously, but we're here today to come forward with that, the planned type of development they had at that time. In terms of, we talked about vegetation, there's no mature vegetation on the property. It does slope away from the road slightly. So it's a gentle slope that was part of the filling operation as we go back. And then once we get back past almost to the rear here, the slope gets steep down to this retention pond. So that retention pond collects all of the storm water from our site, the S.A. Frank site, the adjacent sites to the east, and I believe some of the Stu Leonard's property. And that'll come up later in our stormwater conversation. The last thing I'll bring up are inland wetlands. There are inland wetlands just off our site to the south and slightly on it that were flagged by our soil scientist, James Sipperly. We did receive approval from the Conservation Commission in March last month for our activities, but they are represented in all the plans you see. All right, moving forward, this is our sheet 2, again, with just color in the aerial overlaid for clarity. I won't spend too much time on this plan except for talking about the general access to Payne Road. So in the center of the two sites, or the dividing line, which would be combined as part of this property, we have our main access drive to Payne Road on the south side. That serves a single drive access 24 feet wide through the site and around our building. In orange, you see one building of approximately 11,200 square feet that is located on the west side of the site. There's no current development proposed on the east side of the site. However, there may be something in the future. There are no plans, but we did leave a spot there for future development. Sorry about that. I won't spend too much time on this plan. We'll go straight to, actually, I am going to speak quickly about access, traffic, and sightlines. So we do have adequate sightlines from this proposed driveway location looking in both directions. It's on the outside of this curve, so we have good sightlines looking both west and east towards Berlin Turnpike. A traffic report was performed by VHB. Again, they're on the line, but they found that the traffic generated by our site won't significantly impact the traffic on Payne Road or the adjacent intersections. We can go into detail further on that if there's any questions, but I did want to bring that up, that we did study this Payne Road and the subject intersections, and there's no significant impact. All right, this is sheet number 3 from your plan set. It's a more detailed view of the site layout. And this shows a higher scale resolution of the proposed development layout. So again, as you come onto the site, we have a 28-foot wide access drive that feeds in a 24-foot wide driveway through the development, running north to south and then hooking around the back of the building. We have 64 parking spaces proposed, which exceeds the minimum 56 required for the development. The building itself, again, on the west side of the site, it's 11,170 square feet. The swim school, which is why we're here tonight, part of why we're here tonight, will be located in about 7,000 square feet of the southerly side of the building. The northerly side will be commercial space that's not currently designated. So the commercial space will face Payne Road. Access to the commercial space will be on the east side of the building. Access to the Safe Splash Swim School will also be on the east side of the building, more centrally located in a vestibule. Sidewalks are provided along the entire parking area, connecting all parking spaces as well as the satellite parking area to the south. And on the rear of the site, we have a pedestrian sidewalk that connects all the rear doors or back of the house doors with the trash enclosure area, which is located to the southwest, and to the loading area, which is located adjacent to the trash enclosure. Let's see here. So I covered parking. Covered the trash enclosure. All right. Any questions on the layout before I jump to the next? Real quick to touch on our utilities, grading and drainage. The site was graded to generally meet the contours that were provided to us through that historical land improvement. So we have gentle grading starting at the high point at Payne Road and gently sloping away or to the south from the road. Our building also has a step in it to accommodate that gentle grade. So between the commercial space and the Safe Splash Swim School, you'll have a 1-foot step that'll allow the building to be built and accommodate grades. In terms of utilities, we have adequate water, sewer, gas, and electric in the street. We do have a letter from MDC that was submitted for the record showing that they agree we have availability and capacity for water and sewer utilities. Currently, we're showing those proposed to connect to the rear of the building. So for water, fire, and domestic water. There was a recent comment from, I believe, the fire marshal related to the FTC or fire department connection being in the rear of the building. And our response to that would be that detail can certainly be worked out with the MEP and architects as we get into the building department review phase. So right now, this is more of a high level look at how the utilities will be connected. Once the MEPs are involved, how those will be connected to the building and where the FTC will be provided to the fire department can be worked out. So not an issue for the planning and zoning, but certainly an issue that can be addressed. In terms of drainage, it pretty much parallels what we're proposing for the driveway and grading. So all of the stormwater will sheet flow from north to south away from Payne Road. It'll be collected in an internal network of catch basins and piping, as well as roof leaders and swales that'll direct everything to a treatment filter bed and sedimentation forebay located at the south end of the site. We mentioned before, talking about existing conditions, there's a retention pond to the right or to the south of our property between Stu Leonard's and us. That retention pond existed before 1992. And during the improvements in 1992, it was expanded for the purpose of this development, as well as the car wash and the adjacent properties. So the retention area was expanded to the, west, I'm upside down. So down here. And what we did is we went back through the records and determined what level of development that retention was designed for, because it wasn't specific. And what we found is our proposal is far below what they designed that retention for in terms of volume and storage. So we're below the thresholds that were the original design called for. And they also put in this pipe network here for the direct purposes of us connecting to those catch basins which discharge to the retention basin. So we do meet the intent of the mid-1990s improvements, and in fact are well below the thresholds they were designed for. So again, our main focus here was collection and treatment before discharging there. So this filter bed and sedimentation forebay adequately treat the stormwater in accordance with the 2004 Water Quality Manual and Town of Newington standards, excuse me. Landscaping and lighting, this is sheet 6 of your plan set. I put on the colors for landscaping here, and our focus here was a few different levels. Along the street, we wanted to bring some better shade in street trees along that road here. Again, it's pretty scrubby in there now and doesn't look really nice. So we want to bring in some street trees to line the trees without obscuring the building itself. So you can see we kind of flank the building here. And if there is ever future development, there'll be some mature trees to flank a building on the east side. As you come into the site, there's a network of internal parking island landscaping consisting of shrubs and ground cover. There are foundation plantings consisting of shrubs, perennials, grasses. And as you make your way to the rear of the site, our focus went from landscaping to more of a screening nature. So around the trash enclosure, we have some smaller screening trees that parallel the fence that goes around that enclosure. And then along the property line, we have some staggered conifers, spruce trees, firs, a mix of varieties that ring the west and south end of the site. And what that does is provides a physical and visual barrier to the conservation easement that exists in this location here. That was part of the original subdivision. And then as you get to the rear, we have more of a physical barrier from outside our filter bed to that retention area. So we tried to create a separation here while also leaving room for maintenance of the existing collection system easement. The last thing I'll speak about on landscaping is we are proposing to plant a native wildlife conservation mix all along the south and southerly boundaries of the site. So you can see that in this bright green stipple. That will basically be a conservation mix that can be mowed once or twice a year, preferably once. And it will have native species in it that'll provide a maintainable barrier and try to fight back the invasives that are likely going to want to come back. Same plan, just took off the color of the landscaping and added in the color for the lighting. You can see our lighting focuses entirely on the parking and driveway areas and pedestrian areas. So we designed these lights to focus in where we wanted them and keep creep from going off the property and glare off the property. This little section here, it's more of a program mechanism than reality. Those lights there are going to have a hard time getting through 2 layers of screening trees to get any light over there, but it does not take into account trees when we do the software. The last item I'll present is our erosion control plan. It is comprehensive and in accordance with the 2002 guidelines as well as your town standards. And that concludes my site presentation. And what I'll do, I'll see if I can open up the architecturals, and John Wicko is on the line. I'll see if he can jump in and run through the building.
I am not Brandon Hanfield. I'm John Wicko. The office is at 58 Prospect Street in Milford. I have just a short presentation to familiarize the commission with the building, starting off with the renderings. In general, the building is a single story. It's noted as Building A, the only building on the site, 11,170 square feet with the 3 tenants, as Brandon discussed previously. The overall height of the building is 24 feet to the top of the parapet. You're looking at the entrance rendering, which shows the safe splash vestibule and the 2 tenants for the commercial space towards the front of the building. The materials we're using are clean, contemporary sidings, which I can describe. The top ivory color is a fiber cement panel, like a Hardy panel, as a trade name, if you're familiar with that. That encompasses the whole top of the building, and it sits over a vertical architectural metal, which is rendered in interstate blue from the company that we use. And in areas, it's also over the storefront, which is a black charcoal frame with a glass insert. The other entry canopy is wraps around towards the front and changes material from the safe splash. It's a architectural metal panel that's rendered in a silver color, so it complements the other colors that we chose for the building. There's also the storefront and large windows for street presence. The rear and the back are finished in the same materials. They are represented in the architectural package. Forget the numbers, but I can go through those if need be. The floor plan, which is on A1, is an overall a description of the two tenants at the front, tenant 103, 102, and then the safe splash swim has been designed to show the use, the nature of the function, and how it flows. The next sheet A2 shows a larger scale plan, which is easier to read. You walk in from the entrance into the vestibule, and it opens up to the reception and viewing area that has all windows that separate the pool for environmental comfort reasons, and also for visual while the kids are in class taking lessons. We also have a meeting room that doubles as a party room over to the right, just off the entrance itself. You go to the back of the building and you're going into the changing rooms with toilets over to the right, and there's also some changing room to the left, which is handicapped and for staff. That all opens up to the pool area, which has one large pool, 60 by 20, towards the rear, with glass towards the back for light and atmosphere. And we have what are called swim lab pools, which are kind of big hot tubs, I guess you could, if think of them, they're sitting on the slab and they're used for training for more advanced students. And in the back corner is the pool equipment and chemical and electrical stuff like that. We tucked in that back area. We also drew a building section so you can see what happens on the interior. It's an industrial looking building with some open web bar joists that are open to the larger viewing area and swim areas, with a slope roof that pitches the water, sheets off to a gutter that goes into that drainage system that Brandon described. We also have towards the front of the building a few of the support facilities, the office and things that have a lower finished ceiling for the convenience and privacy of those uses. The front elevation just describes what those renderings are. The next sheet A4. It's an overall showing you the building at scale and then a larger scale, so you can kind of see some of the details of the siding and the panels and the vestibules and canopies. Same with the rear. It describes those. It also has the exterior room finishes called out clearly. I'm sorry, exterior wall finishes called out clearly on all those sheets. And then the rear shows the rear and how it looks and what its function is for getting rid of the water. That's my brief presentation, and I can certainly answer any questions that you guys might have.
You all set? Do you have anything else?
For now, I think that's pretty good for our initial presentation. I would like, an opportunity to come back and kind of close out.
Most definitely. Yeah, I want to
certainly open up to questions from the commission.
open it up to Renata or Eric for their report, and then I'll open it up for commissioner questions directed at you or your staff.
So with regards to staff comments, this went through the Conservation Commission. At that point, it had some minor and technical comments by the staff, which I understand were all resolved at this point. So at this point in time, all of the comments by the staff have been addressed to our satisfaction. And as far as the commission is concerned, all that you are looking at are.
Sir, you can stay up here.
I didn't know if the public wanted to speak.
No, I'm gonna get there, but you can, if you want to move to one side or the other, you don't have to keep moving your equipment. I'm sorry.
Appreciate that. Thank
All of you will be, as a commission, reviewing our criteria for special permit. And then, since this was presented as a combined application, site plan criteria as well.
Okay. And there were no, you found everything that was sent back is manageable to be taken care of?
All the comments have been
All the
addressed
comments
today.
are-
Have all been addressed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
There are no comments.
I'd like to give an opportunity for the public, if there's anyone to speak in favor of this application, please come up. Is anyone online, Eric?
No one online has their hand raised.
Right? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Please come up or raise your hand on the phone. Anyone?
No one.
All right, so I will open this up without seeing anyone for or against it to any commissioner comments or questions that they have for the applicant. Commissioner Woods.
Thank you. Commissioner Claffey. Question for the applicant, signage, is there going to be a sign on the front of this property at some point? You'll come back further in the future for that, or is it just a sign on the front of the building you show on your plan is what you intend on doing?
So we do show a monument sign location just off the driveway.
I see it.
We don't provide the details at this time, so the sign company will likely be coming back to obtain those permits once there's a design for the sign and the size, so.
Right in front of the shade tree that's there?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
there's
I
a-
see it now.
There you go.
Yeah, I see it. More for staff. Is there concern, they obviously need more than, have sufficient parking. What happens when the other lot gets developed? Or do we worry about that at that time? Building
I
is,
think it will depend on the proposed uses. So, as it is right now, I mean, we are aware that there is a plan for additional development on this property, but really what ends up happening here with regards to the parking will depend on the proposed uses. So as long as they can develop this and the proposed use meets the minimum parking required, they should be okay to be able to do that subject to special permit or site plan
okay. And
approvals.
one last comment, really not, well, I guess it's a question. I'm assuming that the parking here and the minimum requirement you said, I believe was 54, 56, one of the two. That's for the entire building, not just the swim school, correct? That's correct. That entire, okay, that's it. Thank you, Commissioner Clappy.
Anyone, other commissioners have questions? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Claffey. Just a question about the plans or the actual architectural plan and the other tenants they had listed as Gym 1 and Gym 2. Is that indicative of what they plan to put there? Or is that just?
I think it's just a placeholder for now, to be quite frank. It really depends on the likely tenant they get and how to be fit out. So my understanding is it'll be a kind of a shell. And then whoever wants to come in, it'll fit out for them. And then at that time, making sure the use is obviously compliant with zoning would be another step there, that they get their zoning permit.
It's also noted on the plans as commercial retail and other spots, so.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Gill?
Yes. As far as the parking, is the level of parking that they're proposing will fit any piece of tenant there?
So what they based their calculation on was the place of physical activity and a retail space, and that's what we developed the parking numbers for.
Okay. All right, then the retention pond, is that being lessened or made smaller, or is it just gonna stay?
So the retention pond's actually off our site. It's on the adjacent abutter to the south. So the retention pond will not change at all.
Okay.
And that has sufficient storage for our peak flow attenuation. All we're gonna do is treat it to make sure it's clean before we discharge to it. And we have easements to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? you have any? You're good? All right, without any other, I had a question, but Commissioner Gill had asked it and you had answered it about the retention pond. I would like to see what the commission would like to do, get a motion to possibly close this and move it to old business tonight.
Mr. Clapping, I move we close petition 15-22 for a special permit to be closed for possible action for in old business this evening.
Seconded by Commissioner Lenars. Vote. All in favor? Aye. All against? The ayes have it. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
We will also reseat Chairman Payne, or let him back in the room. Not reseating anybody. We had the same numbers, so.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next petition that we have on the agenda is for public hearing is petition 18-22, special permit section 6.225 to allow a freestanding sign at 4 Hartford Avenue, applicant Paul Bianca, owner, DYJ LLC, contact Ron Shallow. Is the applicant here? Online?
Yeah, Joe, I don't see Mr. Bianca here if you want to go ahead and.
Mr. Bianca's not there? Okay, we're available.
Okay, that's fine. I'd like to make a presentation. I will, maps up for you, I believe. All right, I brought your map up. If you'd like to.
Good evening. We're here to petition about 4 Hartford Avenue for the sign for the gas station that's being built there. We were here just about a year ago for the building. We were unsure yet of what we were going to do with the sign, so we came back after when everything was more solidified. It's going to be right in that corner where Hartford Avenue and Main Street meet. And it's going to be a 15-foot sign. It's going to have it's a freestanding, 15 foot is the highest. It's going to have the name of the station, cash and diesel price. So that's going to be a regular price and the diesel price. And they are going to be static. They will not be changing. I know it says crash and credit, but we do not plan on doing that.
And just as a point of reference, I know I asked the question, they are only going to have the 2 prices. It's not going to be one just standard 3 prices like you typically see.
Yes, we are only going to show the regular price and the diesel price. All other prices will be stated on the pump.
Okay. Staff have anything?
No, Mr. Chair, this is a pretty straightforward application. It is the sign that's going to be illuminated. Can you can you ask the applicant to just explain the illumination of the signage? That's, I guess, the only other important thing for the record.
Is this internally lit?
Yeah, it is on the top where it says Eagle's Nest, the name, it will be internally lit, and the numbers and the cash and credit are LED lights.
Okay, very good. Anything else? Nope. We're gonna go to the public. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application?
No one has their hand raised.
Wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
No one.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? I have a question for the applicant. it's come up several times from some of our previous commissioners. Can you make sure that we have the address on the middle of the sign somewhere? So that for fire and rescue.
Under the diesel.
Oh, okay. So do you want it written out or just the number of
Just the
building?
number. The
Just the
number
number?
would be, yes.
No problem. Yeah, we can add
That's
that
not-
on the pillar itself.
Okay, very good. I'm gonna go to questions for commissioners.
I just had one question to clarify it.
Yes.
Is this a two-sided sign or a one-sided sign? I see it. Is it going like east to
will be-
west or north to south?
It will be two-sided, but the second side, it will be towards the building. So it's going to be
Okay.
kind of like at a angle. It's not going to be facing Hartford Ave or facing Main Street. It's going to be kitty corner, as they call it.
Okay.
So one
Okay,
side
thank
will
you.
be, yes.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other commissioners have any questions? No other questions from the public? I'll entertain a motion from the commissioners to,
Make a motion that we close petition 18-22 special permit and move it to old business to act on tonight.
second. Motion made by Commissioner Claffey, seconded by Commissioner Havens. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank
Okay,
you.
next thing on our agenda is the approval of minutes. We have TPZ minutes of 03/23/2022 regular meeting. I'll entertain a motion for those.
Move that we accept the minutes as written for the 3/23/2022 regular meeting.
We have a motion by Commissioner Woods. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Trista. Any discussion, any corrections for the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously to approve the minutes. We're under new business now. The next thing on the agenda is TPZ bylaws. And I will ask the staff to give us a little report. I asked Renata to look into this. And I also asked her to look into having some term in there for when the meetings run a little long, so that we don't run into the same problem that we had recently. Tonight, she's gonna give us a brief overview of this, and then we won't take action until
This is the
next
Word
meeting.
document.
So at this time, I'll turn it over to you, Renata.
So to start off, and I'm asking Eric actually to show the document that shows changes. The way this even came about, which is, there were some questions as to why are we doing this, right? So the last meeting went on until 12:30 at night. And one of the issues with that is that everybody was so tired after that meeting, and then there were mistakes that were made. Public was tired, the commission was tired. So the chairman called me next morning and said, can we look into bylaws? First of all, we are aware that the way our agenda is different than our rules and procedures are. And that is because the last time bylaws were amended was in 2001. So last time this document was touched by the commission was in 2001. So it's long overdue document to look at to begin with. And then the other part that really needed to be looked at was how can we do what town council does. At point in time when the commission closes the meeting, for example, I do that in this proposal at 11 o'clock, and then if the commission wants to continue past that time, they would have to vote. So I will go over all the changes that I included in this document and explain why I propose them this is commission's document. So if you don't like something, please feel free to change. This is me suggesting, but you can change any of this. This is a commission's document and not something that is for public to change or for me to really be changing. So the first thing that I looked at was I wanted to make it gender neutral, recognizing the fact that perhaps at some point in time we may have a chairwoman instead of chairman. So I changed that. And then Eric, if you don't mind scrolling down. Then the next thing that I changed was, since we are now obviously holding meetings by Zoom and by hybrid methods and all this other stuff, I included language that actually referenced how we are noticing the meetings and how we are sending the documentation to you. So some of the stuff that you will see is that I'm saying, we're doing electronic, in-person, or hybrid. Then further down in the document, I am saying that I will be sending you notice of the meeting by email, serving you notice by email. The order of business is important. It lines up generally with how our agenda is today. So we have the approval of the agenda, public participation, zoning enforcement report, remarks by commissioners. One of the commission members called us and commented that we did not include a roll call. I did not feel that it was necessary to include every single item on the planning commission agenda on here. But again, it's your document. If you feel that that's necessary, we can certainly put that there. Then we have public hearings, minutes of preceding meetings, new business, old business, petitions received for schedulings, town planners report, communication, public participation. So public participation for items listed on the agenda, for items listed not on the agenda. Actually, Eric, can you just scroll up a little bit? So let's talk about this public participation for a minute. The reason why on planning commission bylaws, I believe this was written originally as a public participation for items that are not on the agenda, is so that you do not hold illegal public hearings. Because if there is an application on a site plan and somebody comes up and talks about that item, but the item is a site plan item, that constitutes an illegal public hearing because you haven't sent a notice, you haven't advertised for it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that is a problem, right? For general matters, general planning matters, however, that are not items that you make decisions on, such as site plans or matters that are public hearings matters, you probably can have people talk about, which is why you allow public participation for items that are not listed on your agenda. But that is the reason why the Planning Commission lists this as items that are not listed on the agenda. So that is one of the reasons why, for example, this bylaw discussion is not necessarily a discussion that is a discussion that technically is to be discussed, but that one actually is okay. You know, people can talk about that because it's not something that you will be making decision on by statutes. So if somebody talks about that, it's not a big deal. It's not a public hearing. It's not something that is going to get us in some kind of big trouble. So there are these two points on your agenda where there is public participations for items that are not listed on the agenda. Then if you scroll down further, there is closing remarks by chairperson, adjournment. I included this section. It shall be within the discretion of chairperson whether the order of business should be varied slightly, provided the commission consents to such variance. I use this language because it's under your public hearing area as well, because I feel that this is already something that is practiced. You know, you already sort of change order of the because your agenda doesn't reflect 2001 bylaws anyways. So this is happening anyways. And this language is not in your bylaws. So we might as well include it. I mean, we're practicing this as well. I think it's when we change order on the agenda, we vote anyways. So including the vote by the full commission is just a smart way to get a consensus by people on these matters. Okay, Eric, so if you can scroll a little further. Okay, so stop, go up. One up, one a little bit more. Okay, so here's the one where I'm talking about the agenda will be email. So we will still be sending you packets like normal way. We do continue to do everything the same. I'm not going to change anything, but primarily because now we are emailing everything, I wanted to include that language in here. Okay, scroll up. I deleted this section here because any item that is proposed within the agenda that doesn't have vetted supportive information as required by these rules is to be considered incomplete. So this paragraph here talks about when do you call an application incomplete? And you, as a commission, have authority to deny application as an incomplete when you don't have sufficient information to render informed decision. So when you don't have documentation that's necessary for you to render a decision, that's when the application is incomplete. Those kind of documents are in your zoning regulations. That should not be in your bylaws. And a bunch of other things on the back of this document that I deleted are also inappropriate to be in bylaws of the zoning commission. So I deleted that as well. Executive sessions, we updated this to reflect the current rule. I double checked with James. He referred me to this particular section of the statute. So this is the one where executive sessions are governed by. And then this next part deals with documents that are documents and filing procedures and matters that should be and are in zoning regulations. This should not be in your bylaws. Okay. Now, this is probably the most important part of what we're talking about. So under the procedures for public hearings, there is a convening by chairperson. There is a reading of notice by the secretary of the commission. We don't really, in practice, identify the location by the town planner. You never turn to me and say, where is this property? We generally know where that property is. And also there is not really a statement by the town planner where I talk about what the application is. We generally just call the applicant right up and they explain the application. Presentation by the applicant used to be limited to 20 minutes, and you can keep these time limits if you wish. However, I feel that it is really ill-advised to time limit any kind of presentation to any type of time limit, because you can have an application that is very simple and can be described in a matter of minutes, such as a special permit for this sign that we just have, which was explained in, I would say, like 7 minutes. And all the questions were answered, and it was a simple, straightforward, it's a sign, it's 15 feet tall and 50 square feet, and it's illuminated so and so, and this is it. Versus you can have a project such as 3333 Berlin Turnpike or National Welding Site, which is a large, 20+ acre project, complex development that involves a lot of elements that require a long presentation for you, the commission, to actually be informed in order to make a decision, and also for public to understand really what is happening. So the applicant, the presenter, has to have sufficient time to address all of the development proposal aspects, and then to talk about how do they address your regulations. So it is up to you how you want to do that, but I think limiting applicants' time is ill-advised. You as a commission can guide applicants. If they go off to the left field and talk about things that are boring and irrelevant, we can always tell them and direct them to talk about things that matter. But so that is why I eliminated that. The next thing that I changed was we have to be fair and we have to be equal. So when people are speaking in support and people are speaking in opposition, they have to have equal time. So I made it equal, whether people speaking in support or people speaking in opposition, both have 2 minutes or both have 3 minutes is irrelevant to me, but they have to have equal time. So you can pick 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 5 minutes for each, but they each have to have equal amount of time. There is a rebuttal by the applicant. I suggest that you do have some kind of time limit to that, because generally, people will bring in a couple of points and then those can be addressed within certain amount of time. After the applicant speaks, so applicant has a higher legal standing on an application than neighbors, than any other resident, because they're representing a property owner, they're representing somebody who has a property value, right? Who has some kind of asset value in an application itself. So in my experience, applicant gets generally last word. These are your rules, however. So if you wish, you can allow public to speak after the applicants. But if you do that, again, it should be equal. So if you allow rebuttal after the applicant speaks, again, it should be to both parties in support and against. So if there is a rebuttal after the applicant's rebuttal, it should be to in support and in opposition, again, equal time. And then I added, I think what will become my favorite clause of this, time adjournment at 11 o'clock. And after that, I believe everything else is deletion of things that are either statutory things or things that are in regulations. I do not like having statutory timelines in commission bylaws. I don't even like having statutory language in the zoning regulations. I don't like zoning regulations that said you must approve plans in 65 days. I prefer having zoning regs saying you must approve this by statutes, because sometimes statutes change, and I just like to have, I don't like to have to change my zoning regs every time somebody as a state decides to change something, so. So I hope this explains what was done here. Now I suggest you take this, you think about this a little bit, and then we can tweak and modify some of this stuff and take it from here.
Vice Chairman has a question for you.
I just caught, sorry, David. I just saw that on page 7, the last little note that we scratched off. We've had at times when applicants have come before us in a preliminary setting to get our take on the potential of said property that's been rumored, say 3333 for example purposes only. And I don't even know if it was them, but someone came and said, how should we move about this? Is it anything we can do better? Like, they came for our opinion, even though in a few weeks later it came as a package. And I remember that years and years ago, we'd have that debate over site plan versus, like tonight, we have the site plan and the building at the same time. But is there anything that we need to put in there where people do come and get our opinion on after they've talked to you, they wanted to get more of the commissioner's opinions?
So that's actually allowed for you to do under statutes right now. And we can include, if you feel more comfortable, and we advise people all the time. I think that is one of the best things for developer to use, a preliminary conversation with the planning commission. If there is anything at all that is controversial, I will advise an applicant to come in and talk to you, because that is a best risk.
So we don't need that in our regulations because it's already covered in another statutory approval or statutory process.
It is allowed under the statutes. I make them, people were in front of you on like 2 or 3 occasions already. I make them sign a little
we have a
form, and they come to you. I might actually, I wasn't thinking about that, but that would be probably a good bylaw thing to put in. That might be something that would be appropriate.
Just something to cover us when someone sits before us on controversial items, because we've had a lot lately that say.
I wasn't thinking, but that could be the one to have actually. Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Any other questions for our town planner?
Yes, one.
Certainly, Commissioner.
As far as the emails, number one, a lot of the emails do not have their name or their address associated with them. And the other is that, like happened tonight, you had people speaking, and then a couple minutes later, the same thing is read into the record as an email. And some people get the chance, just one chance, and if you send an email, if it's the same thing, I mean, it just doesn't seem to be, it's a waste of time, really, and it's not fair.
I did not realize that the person that spoke was that same person. I realized that after I read the letter.
Normally, it's one or the other.
Yeah, no.
Normally, that's what we usually
That was my mistake. I didn't, after I read the letter, I realized that that's the person that spoke already.
And as far as name and address, if I'm not mistaken, they legally don't have to. We ask them to give their name and address, but legally speaking, somebody does not have to leave their name or address for the record. Anyone else have anything else?
Do this, have a timetable. Questions back.
Renata's gonna address a couple things on it, and then we can think about this and we'll have it up. No. You have one thing that you want to add, Renata, possibly to this?
Yes, but
And
why
then-
don't you review this? Maybe there will be some more comments.
Yeah, it's all at one time.
No, that's what I'm asking, is you want us to review it and come back with a report to her. by next meeting or the following meeting? Well, I don't know what the schedule looks like, so I don't want to be like,
We're hoping to address this all for our next meeting. So if between now and our next meeting, if you have any questions for Renata or any suggestions, send them to Renata so that we can discuss them at our next meeting. If that's all right with everybody?
fine with me.
Okay. All right, the next thing on our agenda is old business. I'll have Commissioner Lenars, if he could read petition 0722 for me, please.
Absolutely. Petition 07-22, special permit section 3.19 to allow residential development in the PD zone at 35, 67, and 69 Culver Street and 258 Deming Street. Applicant AR Building Company, Inc., owner RD3 LLC, contact Bon Giovanni Group, Inc., tabled from 3/23/22.
I'll ask the staff, Renata, if there's anything that you'd like to go over with us on this. This is for the special permit.
So, not really. I mean, this was a long presentation at the last meeting. I think with regards to special permit, the record was pretty clear and pretty established. The hearing is closed, no new information is allowed as of now, so you know what you know. If you have any questions with regards to clarifying what you heard last time, you can ask me, but unless it is something that you heard and you wish to clarify, I can't really add anything, so.
Thank you. Is there any commissioners that have any questions for Renata or want to clear anything up?
Just one thing.
Certainly.
I was absent at the last meeting, so just to let the record know, planner, staff, the commission that I read the minutes, went over everything, feel comfortable, obviously sitting, voting, talking, or raising anything that I had, but there was nothing, so just to let everybody know. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lenars.
I also like to state that I was not present at the last meeting, but have reviewed the minutes in detail and feel confident in moving forward with what is transpiring.
Any other questions or comments from the commissioner? I know this was pretty controversial. I truly think that the people will be surprised that I think this will be a nice project down there. I'm in favor of this. We're gonna, if there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion. Commissioner.
I make a motion that we approve petition 07-22.
Motion made by Commissioner Claffey and seconded by Commissioner Havens. Read the entire motion into the record.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I will do that. Excuse me. I make a motion, we approve petition 07-22 special permit section 3.19 to allow a residential development in the PD zone at 35, 67, and 69 Culver Street and 258 Deming Street.
You're on the wrong one now. We're on petition 0722, which is the one right here.
That's what I just read.
Oh, you were reading.
No, he was
reading.
right.
Was he?
That's why I was.
Oh, okay.
There was a delay because I thought my numbers were off.
Okay,
Yeah,
I apologize. Please continue.
Culver Street and 258 Deming Street, applicant AR Building Company, Inc., owner RD3 LLC, contact Bon Giovanni Group, Inc. Move to approve the special permit for residential developments. Reasons for the approval: the proposal meets the special permit criteria of sections 3.19 and 5.2 of the zoning regulations.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Claffey. Still seconded by Commissioner Havens. Any discussion? Guys, any discussion at all?
Yeah, I just have a comment. I mean, I'm probably gonna be a no on this. I think I'm concerned that this project doesn't fulfill our affordable housing need. So considering what Mr. Sweeney said on the last call, really sticking to that regulation proposed. Does this fill a proposed need in a proposed location? In my eyes, I don't think it does. So I just want to get that in the record.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the commissioners? I'll entertain a roll call vote, please. Noreen, are you with us?
She's there. I don't know if her mic is on. She's still there. She's there. Yeah.
Commissioner Claffey,
Yay.
Commissioner Haggerty, Commissioner Haggerty.
He's not here.
Oh, sorry. Commissioner Havens,
Yes?
Commissioner Linares,
Yes.
Commissioner Trister,
No.
Commissioner Woods,
Yes.
Chairman Payne.
Yes.
Okay, you have,
Hey, Commissioner Gill too, please.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Gill.
Yes.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
6-1.
6-1, yes, in favor.
Thank you, Noreen.
You're welcome.
Motion is approved 6-1. And our next petition on old business is petition 0822. Commissioner Havens, if you could read just that petition, please.
Certainly, petition 08-22, site plan approval for residential development at 35, 67, and 69 Culver Street and 258 Deming Street. Applicant AR Building Company Incorporated, owner RD3 LLC, contact Bon Giovanni Group, tabled from 3/23/22.
Okay, so this is the site plan, guys, and we didn't have a chance to speak about this too much at the last meeting, so does anybody have any questions concerning the site plan? Any questions, guys?
No.
They did a very good job briefing us on it.
You have concerns?
The site plan, they covered quite a bit of stuff. There's not going to be, if I'm not mistaken, there's not gonna be clear cutting, correct, Renata? They're gonna selectively cut around the buildings, is that correct?
They are selectively cutting, and my recollection is that they're dedicating 58% of the property in the conservation easement, or 57%.
Yeah, that they reviewed that just, at the conservation level too. So that it is going to be selective cutting where the buildings are going to be going, where the infrastructure is going to be.
Okay. And everything they've complied with everything, Renata?
With the site plan, yes.
With the site plan and
Yes.
everything?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
How does it work, Renato, with the conservation area? How do we have assurances that it gets turned over to the town? Is that?
So they will be, my understanding is that they will be dedicating this into a conservation easement, dedicating it to the town, right?
Right. And typically there's language in the conservation permit where they have like 60 days within filing of the conservation final plans to file those easements. They get sent to the town engineer. We review them for the legal description, make sure we're talking about the same properties. And then it's our standard boilerplate language of the do's and don'ts in the conservation easements: no buildings, no signage, no removal of material, no clear cutting, no pesticide use, stuff like that.
Right. Does that mean that before permit is issued for construction, that all is in place?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
That's what we did at Peckham Farms.
Okay.
Um,
I'm good, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
and Renata, did the Wetlands Commission put any conditions on approval that there'll be markers for the conservation area? Are there?
The Wetlands Commission has put a number of conditions on that. I don't remember whether or not there were any with regards to the markers.
Off the top of my head, I don't believe that they required markers on the easements.
Around the
Around
notifying the residents that this is now the 100-foot buffer and they're not supposed to do anything within the 100-foot buffer area.
You can require that. However, I will just state that this is a residential apartment project managed by the residential apartment company. So it's not like a subdivision where you have a number of property owners with sheds and garages that tend to encroach into these kind of easements. So if the commission wants, we can require markers, but this is a little bit different situation where encroachments are not all that likely.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Yes,
So
Commissioner Woods.
the intention is it will remain an easement. They're not gonna turn the property over to the town. It will always
Correct,
be an
it's
easement.
just an easement, it's not, they're not deeding it in fee simple to the town.
Which I believe is better for the town.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Woods. Any other questions or clarifications?
No.
I'll entertain a motion for 0822, please.
Make a motion for petition 08-22, site plan approval for a residential development, 35, 67, and 69 Culver Street, and 258 Deming Street. Applicant AR Building Company Inc., owner RD3 LLC, contact Bon Giovanni Group. Move to approve. Move to approve the site plan for residential development. Reasons for the approval. Proposal meets the site plan requirements in section 5.3 of the zoning regulations.
Motion made by Commissioner Havens. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Lenars. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Noreen, please.
Okay. Commissioner Claffey,
Yes.
Commissioner Havens,
Yes.
Commissioner Linares,
Yes.
Commissioner Trister,
No.
Commissioner Woods,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Chairman Payne.
Yes.
6-1 again.
Thank you, Noreen.
You're welcome.
Petition 0822 is approved 6-1. Next petition on old business is petition 13-22. If somebody could just read that for discussion.
Petition 13-22. Special permit, section 3.4.9 to allow one interior lot at 359 Church Street and 321 Tremont Street rear. Applicant owner AA Denorfia Building and Development LLC. Contact Alan Bon Giovanni. Move to approve the special permit for interior lot, for one interior lot with following conditions. One, address the comments from the planning office in a letter dated March 4th, 2022. Reason for the approval, the proposal meets the special permit criteria of sections 3.4.9 and 5.2 of the zoning regulations.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded by Commissioner Woods. Discussion, there was some language there that we might want to put in there for the fencing, correct?
Mr. Chair, yes, I would suggest that at request of the resident, you add the language that a fence be maintained in perpetuity, and there is a language to that effect on the site plan.
Okay, and is that acceptable to the motioner and the seconder?
Yes, for the
Yes.
motioner.
Okay. Any other further discussion? Noreen, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Claffey,
Yes.
Commissioner Havens,
Yes?
Commissioner Linares,
Yes.
Commissioner Trister,
Yes.
Commissioner Woods,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Chairman Payne,
Yes.
unanimous.
Okay, next petition is petition 12-22. If Commissioner Woods, if you could read that, please.
Sure. Petition 12-22, special permit, section 6.8 for an open space subdivision at 359 Church Street and 321 Tremont Street rear. Applicant and owner, AA D'Onofrio, Building and Development LLC. Contact Alan Bon Giovanni, and this has been tabled from our meeting of March 23rd, 2022.
Thank you very much. So we have this for discussion under site plan. Is this here? This isn't the site plan.
This is special permit.
This is the special permit? Okay.
Yeah, that's not over, but these don't match.
Okay, Renata, why, could you explain to our commissioners?
Because it's complicated, because this is a subdivision, it's not a site plan.
This is the subdivision?
Yes.
Okay. Could you explain in our regulations why an applicant is allowed to reduce the square footage of the lots and have an open space subdivision instead of having an R20 lots?
So under the zoning regulations, there are provisions that allow what we call in our zoning regulations an open space subdivisions, which means essentially that you can take in R20 zone an R20 lot and reduce it to R12 dimensions with regards to frontage and lot acreage, but only if you dedicate certain percentage, and it's a significant percentage,
Yes.
20, 25 or 40% in an open space, in a designated open space to the town. And this designation is, I'm not sure whether that's easement or dedicated
No,
open
it's
space
dedicated.
that's given to the
Yeah,
town.
it's fee
So
simple.
that's fee simple to the town. So what happens is you take the large parcel of land, you cluster these lots together, you put them close together and you make lots smaller, which doesn't necessarily mean the houses are necessarily smaller. It's just the lots are smaller and closer together so that you can take a larger chunk of land that is maintained as a meaningful, more meaningful open space perhaps.
Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners?
And that's why the open space subdivision is by special permit, part of it.
Commissioner Woods.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot of conversation has come up over whether we connect to Church Street or whether we connect to Rock Hole Lane. And don't our regulations really require the preferred connection would be Rock Hole Lane, not into a major artery? That's how I understand the regulations. Am I reading them correct?
So we have regulations that in subdivision regulations, something that says no through traffic, discourage through traffic. Depending on which, I guess, provision you're looking at. So designing off-road to discourage through traffic. If that's the section that you are referring to, then yes. With that in mind, also, previous subdivision planners have left two stubs Allstone cul-de-sac and Rock Hole Lane extension as a planned connections for future roads to be extended into this area. So at some point in past, somebody planned for some development into this area. So I hope that that answers your
Yeah,
question.
it does, and thank you. And I grew up in that neighborhood, and my parents bought a home there in Huntsville Hedge Drive in 1966. So I'm unfortunately old enough to remember when this parcel was actually farmed, and the piece on Church Street was a gravel pit hauled by a company by the name of Kimball Trucking. So I'm in favor of this position. I think that it's a good use of this property. I like that we're continuing to acquire some additional open space. This was not on our listed in our POCD as an open space or something that we were looking to conserve. So we're actually getting, I think, a little bit of area and land that we might not have in the past, and I think that's good. I think the traffic impact is going to be minimal. I think it's actually going to help the neighborhood. I think it's going to make the neighborhood even more desirable. And I am going to approve this, and I'm glad to see this move forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Renan, I have a question concerning Alston. The roadway there at the circle is humongous, larger than I've ever seen. That can't be normal?
The cul-de-sac area, it's big, yes.
Can that be corrected? Was there a reason why it was made so big?
Back in the day, that when they had these stubbed out roads, the town was given these turnaround easements for removal of snow and for storage of snow. Does it have to be that big today? Probably not, but that's, I don't think we can, for this application, improve off-site improvements as part of it, yeah.
No, I understand that we can't put anything on the developer or anything on it, but I'm just wondering, because one of the residents talked about an easement over there that the town had, and I would assume it's part of the cul-de-sac. Commissioner Wood.
Yeah, actually, one more thing on that I meant to bring it up and I forgot, but again, in 1966, Rockhole and Winslow Drive both dead ended. Edmonds Farm was still there, and then from Rockhole Lane up to Alston, when the farm and the dairy was closed down, that land became developed, and actually Alston got extended to the north to connect to Winslow, so they could bring Winslow up down on the west side back up. So the original development was by sheer development. I believe it was 96, 97, 98 homes. And then it's been added on twice over the years. So,
thank you. And then the only other concern I had was, is the proposed development going to be the same width as Rockhole?
No. So the Rock Hole Lane is 30 feet paved width.
I thought it was 28.
No, it's 30. We actually double checked.
So I verified with the town engineer.
It's 30 feet,
this afternoon.
feet paved. And this road will be 26.
And how, in Winslow is how?
It's probably 30.
they're
With
30
that
feet.
cul-de-sac, they're
The
going to be 30.
Rockhole seems a little narrower than Winslow.
I didn't, I just got that from the town engineer. I didn't physically go out and measure it. So.
And is the town staff satisfied with the 26 feet that's being proposed?
With the width?
Yes.
Yes.
He actually increased it from the original 24.
Okay. Any other questions from the commissioners? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So if I may, just before you go into the motion, then we, in our memo, as you know, because I reported that the staff had recommendations with regards, we had some, how do I say this? feelings with regards to connection to Church Street versus going through the neighborhood. And engineering and the fire department in particular had both commented on going through the neighborhood. So in your motion, one of the memo referenced for the subdivision is from the town engineer. His memo includes a comment that talks about efficiency of the access. If you are tonight going to approve the subdivision and include the condition in his memo, I will ask that you strike comment number 1 from his memo. So please include his memo because all of his other comments are still valid, but exclude comment number 1. And then the second comment was the question that we discussed at the meeting as well with regards to the provision of sidewalks. If you approve this without requiring installation of sidewalks, please strike comment number 5 from Eric's memo. Again, include the entire memo, but minus comment number
5 and 12.
5 and 12 from his memo.
They're in a separate memo. These are comments that are in a separate memo dated, one dating March 4th and one dating April 13th.
Yes.
So the town engineer letter dated April 13th, if you're asking us to, if we're in favor of this, to strike comment 1. And then on the planner's office, March 4th letter, we would strike comment 5 and 12. You know, my biggest concern on, you know, I would imagine the applicant looked at everything and was trying to make the most desirable. You know, my only problem with entrance on Church Street, if the road was straight and didn't have that big dip in the road, then I'd feel more comfortable with it there, but I don't feel comfortable with it the way the road is set up. Anybody else have any comments concerning this? All right, Commissioner Claffey, do you want to do a motion?
I want to first, if we're striking, are the numbers right on the motion? You have a 2 and a 1. Are they flip flopped?
Yes.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 1, 2.
Strike 1 and 2.
No, it's supposed to be number 1.
It's just the order. That's just whatever.
I understand, but that's where I'm still a little confused at what we're striking, what we're not striking.
So there are 2 memos. Address the comments from town engineer. So town engineer included the memo. His memo has like 20 comments. Only comment number 1
from his
is the comment that needs to be out. Everything else is relevant.
I'm not confident without seeing it presently written of what we're striking. No offense.
Would you like me to read it?
I think I got it.
You got it here?
I'm from the one, no,
That's why I'm trying to make sure that we have some transparency of this, and I mean, I could say strike 5 and I have no proof of what strike 5 is.
I believe number 1, correct, is the it's on Church Street, enter and exit. On
Do you
Church
have
Street.
that up on the screen now?
I'm looking for it.
Sid?
It's right here. He didn't, it's not number one, it's right here. This paragraph.
Oh, he didn't even number it. Okay.
It's this paragraph. Do you want me to read it?
If you could, please, read it for the record.
TON, Town of Newington prefers an efficient public road network with direct access to Church Street and the existing Rockhole Lane stub to reduce residential traffic and construction traffic through the residential neighborhood, Winslow Drive, Alston Road, etc. Reduce emergency response distance and time, and reduce bus route distance and time. Use of the existing Rockhole Lane stub adds about 4,500 feet of distance, 0.85 miles, and time.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. I would suggest that when we do make this motion, we just make the motion that we approve the site plan as drawn.
As drawn, yes, I agree,
That
I
makes it
agree. It's
simple.
like less
Yeah.
confusing.
And then the other thing is that I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I am wrong, but I believe the construction entrance is Church Street.
Yes.
It is, yes.
So all construction will come in and out on Church Street. And Rockhole doesn't get opened up until it's complete. So the
That is
neighborhoods won't get the construction traffic. Correct. Which is important. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Woods, would you like to make the motion?
Sure, feel free.
Thank you.
Petition 12, excuse me, petition 12-22, special permit, section 6.8 for an open space subdivision at 359 Church Street and 321 Tremont Street rear. Applicant owner, AA D'Onofrio, Building and Development LLC, contact Alan Bongiovanni. Move to approve the special permit for an open space subdivision with the following conditions. Address the comments from the town engineer in a letter dated April 13th, 2022. As comment 1. Comment 2, address the comments from the planning office in a letter dated March 4th, 2022. And Eric used to want me to eliminate comment 5 and 12 in that memo.
Not
No,
necessary because it's not shown on the plan as
Yeah,
drawn.
there are no sidewalks shown.
And then the third comment I'd like to add is that we are approving the site plan as drawn, with permanent access to this development from Rockhole Lane. And then, let me continue with the construction traffic coming from Church Street.
And then the reason.
Yes, reason for the approval, approval meets the special permit criteria of section 6.8 and 5.2 of the zoning regulations. The proposal is consistent with the subdivision regulations.
Very good. We have a motion from Commissioner Woods. Do I have a second? Any seconded from Commissioner Lenars? Any discussion? Any questions? Noreen, could you do a roll call vote, please? Maureen?
Let's see if she's still on. Still on.
Commissioner Claffey,
Yes.
Commissioner Havens,
Yes.
Commissioner Linares,
Yes.
Commissioner Krister,
Yes.
Commissioner Woods,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Chairman Payne.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, motion 1222 passes unanimously. The next petition is petition 15-22. If Commissioner Claffey could read
I
that.
have just a question on 15-22. In our public hearing on the agenda, it showed them listed under one number. Now you've broken them off, same number, but separate. So do you want it read in separately, but with the same number?
Yes, please, separate motion.
Yep, and they're gonna be separate motions, separate voting.
Yes.
Okay. Petition 15-22, special permit, section 3.19.1 and 3.15.6 to allow a place of physical activity, swim school, in a PD zone at 77 and 93 Payne Road. Applicant SBS Realty LLC, owner McBride Properties, Inc. Contact Merton J. B. Sabarad.
And I'm going to recuse myself as I did earlier. Go right ahead. Commissioner Coffey.
I move to approve the special permit for a place of physical activity. You would, stop me right there. You had added site plan, but I'm gonna ex-nay that to the next one.
Yes.
So I'm ending with the physical activity, period. Reasons for the approval, the application meets the special permit criteria in section 5.2 of the regulations. I have a second by Commissioner Woods. All in favor? Aye. All against? Hearing none, approved. And move to petition, the site plan side of this, petition 15-22 site plan, section 5.3 in the PD zone at 77 and 93 Payne Road. Applicant SBS Realty LLC, owner McBride Properties, Inc. Contact Merton J. B. Sabarad. I move to approve the site plan. Reasons for the approval, the application meets the site plan criteria in section 5.3 of the regulations.
Second.
Seconded. Excuse me. All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Hearing none, site plan approved.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. Vice Chairman Coffey, the next petition is petition 18-22. If I could have somebody read that motion.
Petition 18-22, special permit, section 6.2.5, to allow freestanding sign at 4 Hartford Ave. Applicant Paul Bianca, owner DYJ LLC, contact Jar Shallow.
Okay.
We gotta read the.
We could go right into the motion.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. Move to approve the special permit for a freestanding sign at 4 Hartford Avenue. The reasons for the approval, application meets the special permit requirements in section 6.2.5 of the regulation.
And staff will make sure that there's a number on the sign for safety reasons. Yep. And so we have a motion on the table and a second. I have a second for Commissioner Leonard. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Next thing is petitions for public hearing scheduling, and then the town planner's report. So I'll turn it over to Renata if she has anything to discuss on those.
So we don't have anything for, oh, we
Yeah,
do,
yes.
actually.
We did.
All right, so we have an interior lot at Cedarwood Lane, scheduled for the interior lot and re-subdivision, which requires a hearing as well. It's one lot, so it's not too big of a deal. Under my report, we have a future agenda report, which, you know, we always share with you, but I wanted to actually talk to you about something else tonight. I started looking into some research about what to do about that word character. And one of the interesting responses, I actually posted a question on the planners listserv to see if people are like grappling with this and, you know, who is doing, if anybody is doing anything with that. So a lot of people are actually not doing anything with it because logistically is really kind of like a headache to deal with that. But a lot of people are worried about it because pretty much every municipality in state of Connecticut has that word in their zoning regulations, in their POCD, in some sense. So one interesting thing that came up out of some of these conversations was from, I believe, town of Westport, where they're saying how they're trying to remove it and replace it with other descriptive language. So I thought that that was perhaps an interesting approach for us to maybe consider going forward. So when we start looking in our zoning regulations and start looking at that, rather than trying to define character, which is you either have to be really vague or you have to be somehow like different for each different district. I think it's probably best to not even have that word and just use physical elements, talk about heights and scale and bulk of buildings and talk about development in that kind of terminology, I think. So I'm flushing all of this out as I'm kind of thinking and talking about that. And, when we start looking into zoning regs more, we'll talk about it. But I think the first test of it will probably come when we start looking into accessory apartments and opt-out language. Like I have a sense that that's really like the first time when we will be like, oh, and what about this character? This neighborhood is different than this other neighborhood. And, we'll probably start kind of like thinking about that more in that. And that's probably going to be more of like public participation and more of. So, yes, so that's that. It's not a definitive language. This is just something that I've been kind of thinking about, so.
Anything else?
No, that's my report.
Okay. Everybody got the CROG communications is, Commissioner Gill, do you have anything you'd like to add on that?
Well, I did participate in my first CROG meeting, and there's a lot of things going on in there, but they're have the same types of problems that we have. People are going different directions, and they don't seem to be have a point of direction. So once I get some more notes and the accessory apartments, that's one of the hotbed items that are, it's out there for everything. And also the transit districts is another, some of that we have to decide ourselves what we're going to be looking at and what our concerns are.
Mm-hmm.
Because from what I'm seeing, Newington could have 4 or 5 transit districts. They can have 2 buses and 2 trains. And are we talking about plans or what is physically there right this second? Now that didn't make it through committee, right?
So accessory apartments, I think there is some confusion with regards to what accessory apartment languages and TOD, like recently, the bill that recently didn't pass through the Planning and Development Committee. So that TOD bill was not accessory apartment. That was a bill that was essentially a density bill that would have, had it passed, allowed zoning for 50% of area within, and please don't quote me because I may be wrong with some of this information, but I think they were saying within half an acre of a station, 50% of an area would allow for zoning up to 15 units per acre of density. And that would like minus out wetlands and some other wetlands, historic properties and some other natural resources. So that's one bill. That's the bill that didn't make it through the legislature this year. The accessory apartment bill passed last year. So that is the bill that if we don't do something about that this year, we will next January have to allow by right at any lot that has a single family home, at least one accessory dwelling unit. By right, we zoning officers will have no authority to say to somebody, no, you can't have an accessory.
This is what we were talking about, that we were gonna opt out of this.
Right, so that is scheduled for public hearing on May 13 with the planning commission. That will have to go to the council if it goes to the planning commission. But those are two different things. They're not the same. And I think people kind of confuse them, I guess.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Gill.
So does that explain?
Yes, yeah, no, I knew they were two different bills or that are out there.
So accessory apartments is coming, that's in May. We have that hearing.
Okay, I think the next thing is, do we have something here, a 4/4/22 town letters or is that?
The crowd letters.
Yeah, I think it's the crowd.
That's just the CROG letters. Okay, so we're all set on that. If there's no other questions, we'll go to public participation. If there's anybody out there would like to speak under public participation, please raise your hand.
Go ahead, Mr. Zeller, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, not related to any application specifically. I have two questions for the chairman regarding our regulations. First question is petitions for interior lots. What would be valid reasons for denial? Second question for the chairman is regarding open space subdivisions. Are wetlands and steep slopes included in the open space calculations? Or is only land that is usable by the public considered in those calculations? Thank you.
We're gonna refer those to the town staff to look into those for answers. You're not sure?
Offhand, I don't know. I would have to review the.
Right, there are some minor.
There are some provisions in the zoning regulations, but offhand, I'm not. If Mr. Zeller wants, he can get in touch with us.
Okay. And if you're not comfortable answering it, send it to the town attorney, please, for review if you're not comfortable answering the questions. Anything else? Any other public wishing to speak?
No one else has raised their hand.
Gail?
Gail Detriment of 21 Isabel Terrace. Again, I just wanted to reiterate several comments I received from the public regarding the revised regulations, but also these are some things that I, as a resident of town, I agree with as well. First of all, thank you for clarifying the fact that what items not listed on the agenda need. Because oftentimes, I've been confused, like I've seen things that you were going to talk about on the planner's report, like maybe a state, possible state regulations that come through, whatever. I felt I wasn't able to comment on it because it was on the agenda, but yet it wasn't related to specific application that we were talking about. So I'm glad there'll be some flexibility there in the future. Also, the thing that I guess I'm most concerned about a little bit is the reduction in public speaking from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. And I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but it is, particularly in front of the TPZ versus even the town council. But in the town council, we actually had a lot of debate about this. We were going, in terms of public participation, going to 4 minutes and 3 minutes, whatever. But the point is, in 2 minutes, particularly in a subject that's as complicated and quite frankly passionate, that people come up before the zoning board because it impacts their property or an issue that is really important to them. And I know passion does not override rules and regulations. And the public doesn't understand that. I think, for the most part, oftentimes, I never understood it. It took me years to understand it. But as much as, people, as a developer has a right to develop their property, people in this town, taxpayers, feel that they have a right to at least express their opinion. And, I wish there's some way that we could better educate them on really what, regulations override passion, but we're not going to be able to do that immediately. But by taking away even a 1 minute of time, I really think that diminishes the public's feeling that they're being heard. And in a town like ours, and the fact that development is happening so rapidly, and just in the political environment in general, people want to be at least heard and acknowledged. So 1 minute, I think really will be harmful to the reputation of this committee, as well as to what we're doing to the people in town. So I'd ask you to reconsider at least reinstating the 3 minute, particularly if you're getting rid of the rebuttal, you're getting rid of the second opportunity for the public to speak. So just, I'm asking you to do some thinking when you're looking over these proposed revisions. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to make a statement that this is what's been proposed, but none of the commissioners have yet had a chance to comment on this, and we will comment it on next meeting. And I'm sure we all have different feelings on it. But I think that there's not a commissioner here that could say that I've prevented any public from speaking within the time limits. We've always extended the time limits. Am I correct, Commissioner Woods? And we've always extended the time limits well beyond what they should be. And that's why we had a meeting that lasted until 12:30 at night. So this commission, I think, has done a fantastic job allowing people to speak. And we haven't done, this is what's being proposed by the town planner and staff, and we're going to look at it, and then I'm sure we'll all have comments on it, and we'll go from there. I don't think anybody's made up their mind on whether or not to change the times or whether to get rid of the rebuttal yet. But we will review that. I would also ask the commissioners to review the 11 o'clock. If they feel that the 11 o'clock is too late, then I'm open to hear a different time. So can't be 7:30.
I really think.
Okay.
But can I also make a suggestion in regards to the bylaws and rules of procedure? I've been in instances where they started the meetings a lot earlier. I mean, 7 o'clock at night, I think is late for a meeting to start. I would be in more of a thing to start the meeting earlier. So that it can be done by 10 o'clock at night. But starting meeting at 7 at night, through the last 2.5 years of being on a Zoom, we don't get a lot of participation because I think the meetings from the residents of this town, because the meeting's too late. So that's my own, I think a start time at 6 or 6:30 would be more relevant to the people in this community who might be coming home from work and saying, hey, I'm going to go to that meeting. And then instead of going all the way home and then backtracking all the way back to town, I'm a more proponent of having an earlier meeting.
Okay.
But again, there's a lot of things that go through, but
We can discuss that option, and discuss the pros and the cons of it, whether or not we're gonna have any dinner here or not.
And really, the thing with the number of minutes is completely irrelevant to me. The only thing that matters is that it's the same amount of minutes for people speaking in support and people speaking in opposition.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, there's no other public on the line?
No one else has their hand raised.
Okay. Any commissioners have any final? Commissioner Woods?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I want to again applaud you for your ability on all these meetings since I've been on this board and you as chairperson to allow the public to speak, sometimes at the detriment of getting business done. You let 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 chances, pretty much anytime anyone wants to speak, whether it is the proper time or not, you allow them that opportunity. And like I said, I applaud you for that. It's very emotional for most members of the public. If they take the time to come out, we have to hear them. We have to listen to them. It doesn't mean we have to do what they say, but I believe this commission does a really good job. I mean, there's 7 of us sitting up here tonight. Obviously, we all know each other well as commissioners, but we don't talk in between meetings, and yet we are pretty like-minded here. I think we are starting to move the planning and zoning and development in this town in a good place. And I know that there's some people that don't agree with that, and I'm okay with that. But I ask if you get involved. If you don't like it, you need to get involved. You just can't sit out in the audience and complain. You really need to get involved, although you do have a voice. You know, if you want to come here and speak to me, as far as I'm concerned, that's also getting involved. And I think I had conversations with Rhonda going back a couple of months. We don't follow our rules and regulations, and that bothered me. And all she did right now, I believe, was, and she stated this, she was just trying to equal it out. Now it's our job to make sure that we give public a fair amount of time to do it. Most of the time, it doesn't really matter. Most of the time, if they want to go on for 10, 15 minutes, the chairman is going to let them because they need to vet, and it doesn't really upset the whole running of the meeting. But at times it does. So when you get on, particularly our last meeting, right, when it goes on to better part midnight before we close out, we're not thinking straight. I mean, we made a pretty big error. We actually discussed 2 petitions in full, and we were closed 2 positions that we never read one into the letter. And that's just because we were doing too much, too fast, and we're exhausted. But again, I think the chairman has done an excellent job in allowing the public to speak. And it's not easy because lots of times it's targeted at him, and it becomes personal. And he's done a pretty good job of just letting that roll off. We don't make, the decisions here at this table that everybody likes, but I do believe that we follow our regulations, and that's what we need to do, and I think that's what we'll continue to do.
Thank you,
Thank
Commissioner
you
Woods.
for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any other remarks from commissioners? I want to thank everybody, thank the commissioners, and motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
10:15.
Yeah, a little better than last time.
10:15 is the good time.
I can remember a couple of cases when we started at 6.